Hey everybody, I'm Mindy and
My name is Khan.
we are both with Parkson Properties. What we have noticed is that a lot of people or first-time home buyers, have a lot of questions, and I think the process can be a little scary at first. And that's where we just wanted to compile a lot of these questions just for you guys can reference and feel a little bit more comfortable through the process. So of course these are just the frequently asked questions, but there's always going to be different things that you want to inquire about, and we're here to help. But before we get started, I know personally when I was going through my first time home buying experience about 8 years ago, a lot of these things I was like, oh gosh, how, what does that mean about my credit score? Where does it need to go? Who do I go for lending? And again, this is kind of a reason why we compiled this. So that's kind of my personal story, because even going through these questions that we get a lot, it kind of, captures my memory of that time when I bought my first house. So
yeah, definitely. Before I got into real estate, I also was wanting to buy my first house, and definitely a lot of these financial questions, a lot of mortgage questions that I had, definitely was in these questions right here that I have in front of me. And so these questions will really gonna help you guys out to understand more about the financials and the numbers and how it's all gonna work. So let's get right onto it.
okay.
All right. So Mindy, the first question gonna be, what credit score do you have to have in order to buy a home?
So a lot of people think that they need to have a perfect credit score. By all means, let me go ahead and start by saying we are not lenders. We are not, in the mortgage business. So this is just, we definitely have our preferred lenders that we can recommend to you and connect you with. But this is kind of top line questions or the answers to, what our lender partners are able to give us. So you can have a score as low as 500 if you're going for an FHA loan, but a lot of more people are going for conventional loans, and the borderline for that would be a 620.
Right. And a lot of people, when I ask them, about buying a house, they give me an answer along the line of, well, I don't know, my credit score is kind of low right now. I don't know if I should be buying. Most of the time, what I tell them is that it's okay if you have a low credit score. There's a lot of program out there that's available for everybody with any type of credit score. So just go ahead and reach out to a real estate agent, reach out to a mortgage lender, and they'll be able to tell you exactly whether you're going to get approved or not.
Right. And the next steps, maybe you're not ready yet, and that's okay, but they can, you work as a team to know, ABC 1, 2, 3 of what you need to do in order to get ready.
Right.
Okay.
Awesome. So next questions. When you get pre-approved with a lender, do you have to use that lender when you're ready to purchase the home?
So no, a pre-approval is non-binding. A lot of times, especially in this market right now, as hot as the market is, in order to put in an offer, you have to have a pre-approval letter. So with that being said, you can just get a pre-approval letter. It's not binding, and once you are ready to move forward, I definitely always highly suggest to shop around for who has the best rates. And so when you're ready, you can go to a different lender other than who gave you your initial pre-approval letter.
And also, it's very important to get this pre-approval letter, because it's really going to show us what is your situation, how much you can afford, and really narrow down the type of houses that we're going to be the real estate agent can find for you and find the best fit for you.
Yep.
As well, right? So the next question is, how long does a pre-approval last? Do you have to get another one to update it?
Okay, so a pre-approval letter lasts for 90 days. And in this day and market, you definitely have to have one. If you want to put in an offer, they're required to have a pre-approval letter. And the reason behind that is, they want to make sure that you are legit, or that you really have the funds in order to get this house. There are, lots of different buyers out there. As you guys know, it's a seller's market, and there's just not enough inventory. So they're like, who here, is the best candidate to buy this house? So one of the steps is to have a pre-approval letter, right? So let's say you want to put in an offer, and it's 91 days, after your pre-approval letter has been presented to you. Not the end of the world. All you have to do is call your lender and ask them for an updated one.
Right, because you already provided those documents at the first time go around.
Right. So be patient. The first go round, I think a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, why are they asking for all of this information? But take a step back and understand this is a huge investment, and why they need to see, your proof of
income,
Yep.
your W-2, and your taxes, previous taxes records. That's
Yeah.
about it.
So it seems like a lot, but once that initially it's done, all the other steps fall into place.
Sounds good. All right. So, are there any upfront fees to get a pre-approval?
Nope. Really not much more to that. There isn't. So we can
Right.
move on.
Yeah.
Unless you had anything to add.
No.
Okay.
No. But yeah, a lot of people do things that, starting out the process, you have to pay all these fees. Whenever I tell them to contact the lender, like, well, do I have to pay them anything? Are they going to sell me anything?
Right.
Most of the time, no. They really just at the end of the day trying to understand your situation and trying to get you pre-approval so we can move forward with the home searching process. So at the end of the day, they really don't want to sell you anything. They really just want to give you the best service there is.
I mean, and keep in mind too that it will put a ding on your credit. So, strategically, if you're not ready to purchase a home, let's say in a year, you might want to wait a little bit longer until it's a little bit closer. But I know a lot of different lenders can kind of give you a not specific number, but a roundabout without dinging your credit.
Yep.
So just something to think about.
Yep. All right. So the next questions: are there any fees when working with a realtor this time?
Okay. So as a buyer, there are no fees. This is how it works. So the seller hires a listing agent or the seller's agent, and they have an agreement between the two of them. And this is, I say typically, because everything is negotiable,
Right.
but typically that agreement is for a 6% commission, which goes to the seller's agent, the listing agent. So on the other side of it, as a buyer's agent, they are in contract with the listing agent. And when they bring a buyer to the table, that contract is that the listing agent will pay the buyer's agent the 3%. So it's 3% per side. Simplest terms, the buyers do not pay anything. It's the sellers that come out of pocket and pay the commission for both sides.
So definitely use the realtor when you are searching for buying a house because it's free to use.
Yeah.
Anyways, right.
And that's not the only reason why. I mean, because of everything that a realtor has to offer in terms of their experience level, negotiation tactics, and everything else behind it.
Definitely. All right. So this question is gonna be very specific. So during this market right now, currently, this it's a very hot market, right? A lot of houses prices have been increasing. What happens when the house doesn't appraisal, or what does that mean?
Okay, so once you get a house under contract, part of the lender's underwriting process is to get an appraisal done by an independent appraisal company. Okay, so what that means is you just, again, like I spoke about earlier, how it's a big money. It's a lot of money that the lending or the mortgage company is lending to you, and the whole purpose of getting an appraisal is this house worth what the contracted price is? Right? They need to know that this is collateral and that it's worth it, right? Because if it's not worth it, then why are they going to lend you money for that, right? So let's say that the house does not make value or doesn't appraise. There's 4 different options that we can take here. So number 1 is you negotiate the price down to the appraisal. So, hey, seller, this is the price that I appraised that, and I need it to go down.
Right.
They can say no. They don't have to do that, right? So number 2, if they don't want to renegotiate, which they don't have to, you can contest the appraisal by pulling other recent sales and comps in the area. And because on the appraisal, it does specifically say opinion of value. And what that means is that that's just one appraiser's opinion of value, and you just have to contest that. And I say just have to as if that's very simple, but it's not necessarily that simple.
Right.
Okay.
And this is when you really need to talk to your realtor to really figure out a plan to really attack this situation, right?
Right. Okay. So number 3 is that you really like the house. It didn't appraise at value or at the contracted price, but you are able to make up the difference. So for example, you put in an offer and the contracted price is $200,000. But it came in at $205,000, and so no, that's the over appraisal. If it comes in
at 202,
yeah, why am I saying this wrong?
you can redo the number 3.
Just number 3.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. Let me think about this. Because if you're putting in for 200,
And the appraisal come back for 202.
no, appraisal's lower. You have to make up the difference, right?
No, appraisal higher. Wait, lower, yeah, lower.
Lower.
So yeah.
Okay, so I
So
said this wrong.
198.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you achieve.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So okay.
Number 3.
Okay, so the third one is if it does not appraise, right, you can come out of pocket for it. So, for instance, if you love the house and you put in an offer for $200,000, but it only appraises for $195,000, right? So under. So as the bank, you're like, I'm not going to give you or lend you money, for $200,000. I'm only going to lend it to you for $195,000. I love this house. My husband loves the house, and we have extra cash. And so we will make up that difference of $5,000.
Right.
Unfortunately, not everybody is in that situation or can do that, but that is just another option where you just make up that difference, right? So fourth and final one, and not
When all things fail, right?
Yeah, not what you want, but is to break the contract. There are contingencies that are written in at times where you can get your earnest money back because XYZ is in an appraise, or you can't get funding, so on and so forth. But again, I know I'm not super definitive on all of this because everything is just based on what is agreed upon in the previous contract.
It's definitely a case-to-case basis, right?
Right.
Right.
Yep. So that's what happens if and when a home does not appraise.
Awesome. The next question is, in the other hand, if the appraisal come back higher than the contracted price, can the seller ask for more?
No. So basically the appraisal is done and that is only shared with the buyer. So the seller's agent and the seller do not get a copy of the appraisal. So if and when that happens, that it is over appraised or the price is higher than what the contracted price is, it's just yay, and you move on.
Right.
Nobody has to know, and that's feels good to you. Who doesn't like to feel that they got a deal, right? So
Right.
you just kind of move on.
Awesome. Next questions. When you put in an initial offer for a home, all the repairs considers.
Are all the
All
repairs?
the repairs,
Okay.
yeah.
Again, this is a case by case. So there are a lot of homes that are listed as is, and those usually will be priced accordingly. And so they'll price it where it is undervalued because they know that it still needs to have XYZ done. Other ones will be priced, at where they think it is, but after or during when you have this option period, after you get under contract, you can still do an inspection and come back to the seller and ask for repairs. So that's still where it's negotiable.
Right. And can you explain what is an option period?
Sure.
People might not understand that.
So once you get under contract, when you get under contract, to kind of simplify that too, is I'm going to turn in a price that I want to buy this house at to you, the seller.
Right.
You, the seller, you agree.
Will I accept? Yeah.
Yep. So you sign, and I sign now, and that's an accepted contract. Now, the time that it's accepted, typically the option period is 7 to 10 days. I say that typically because, again, this market is crazy. Sometimes a lot of people are saying 0 option period, or as low as 3 days, 5 days. But let's just go with the typical 7 to 10 days. In the 7 to 10 days, your option period, you as the buyer can go in and hire your own inspector, and they go in there. That's exactly what they do. They inspect the home and be ready for a laundry list. That's their job, is to go through everything. But mainly what I always tell my clients is that we are looking for the big ticket items, something that, not that a door squeaks or that there's a broken piece of tile in the kitchen, right? But are we looking for plumbing, electricity, foundation, roof issues, things that are going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars down the line. So within that 7 to 10 time period, you get an inspection report done, and that's when you can renegotiate with the seller of, I've gotten this inspection report done, I'd like these repairs done, or I'd like to have $5,000 back and I'll get this done myself.
Yeah.
It all has to be done within that time period.
So the option period is just like a grace period when you can actually terminate the contract at any time you want. So that's when it gives you the most powerful position to negotiate with the seller when it comes to repair or among other things as well.
Yep.
All right. So, how long does it take to buy a house?
Well, I feel like that's a loaded question. But let's just simplify it, right? So what we talked about from an executed contract, right? So from once you execute a contract, typically 30 to 40 days, depending on, and this is talking about a pre-existing home, not new construction. New construction is a whole different ballgame. So from the date of the contract, 30 to 45 days, unless it's a cash sale,
Right.
that can be done 7 days.
Much faster.
Yeah, and the meaning, behind that, because you don't have to do underwriting through lending, you're not borrowing money. That's mainly what the 30 to 45 days are. Okay, is the underwriting process through the lender. So now if we're talking new construction, dirt on the ground up, I like to typically say 6 to 8 months.
Right.
Even though when you're sitting there with the sales consultant with the new construction home, they'll tell you, oh, 5 to 6 months. No. Lo and behold, always add that cushion, because it's inevitable and it's going to happen. So whether, whatever your situation is at the time, if you're going once a month or if you're living with your parents, have in your head just that cushion.
Right.
I definitely would keep that in mind.
Awesome.
Yep. Anything to add to that?
It's really, you really want to take your time. Like I said, this is definitely one of the biggest financial decisions of your life. So definitely work with a realtor, really get to know the process and understand the process. You'll be much more comfortable when dealing with buying a house.
Right. Well, so then going back to how long does it take, and why we say once you go into contract, because that whole time period beforehand, you're looking at homes, right? So you can be putting in offers and they're not accepted.
Right.
That's the main thing that I always tell people. Be ready for this process, because it's a draining process. You're going to see many homes that you see yourself in, and unfortunately, it's just not meant to be.
Right.
And so, that process in itself, I've been with clients that it's taken 6 months to finally get in a contract under something they like.
Right.
On the flip side, from time I got a phone call from a client until the day that we closed, literally was 6 weeks. From looking for a home, put in an offer on their first house that they loved, got it, and closed weeks later.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's great.
I was a unicorn, but we wish that could always happen.
Right. All right, the last question of the day.
Okay.
How much are closing costs?
Again, another loaded question. So it definitely varies, because a lot of that is dependent on the purchase price, right? So a lot of people, I think, if you're saving money, which everybody should be when you're going through this process, right, for your down payment or your closing costs. But if you're specifically thinking, saving the cash for closing costs, the good rule of thumb, I would say, is 3 to 5%. But the variables with that are the interest rate, which affects the prepaid interest that you do have to pay, the tax rate, which will affect the prepaid taxes due at closing, and lender fees. So depending on different programs, some people will be able to access different, what do you like those programs, right?
So
like
down
first-time
payment
buyers.
incentive program, something like that.
Right. So yeah, typically 3 to 5% with variables in between. 3 to 5% of contracted price.
Yep, that's correct. All right, so that was the end of the
that's
last question we had.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you so much for answering all the questions. I hope these questions really clarify everything that you guys need to know, or been wanting to ask someone. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any more questions, anything like that, please contact me or Mindy at Parkson Properties, and we would love to help you guys out. Our contact information will be down at the bottom. And just let us know if you have any questions. Any last word?
Well, like I said at the beginning, it seems very scary at first, but once we're here to make you feel comfortable about it, and hopefully, like Con said, that some of these questions or answers definitely kind of helped you through it. And it's scary, but it's exciting all at the same time. So let's have fun finding your next home.
Awesome. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you.